What is going on, everybody? My name is Joseph. Welcome to the MTG Thoughtcast. I'm here with two of my favorite people on the planet. First up, we have former baby John Kendall. What's going on, John?
I mean, aren't we all just former babies?
Yeah, but you specifically were a baby.
Ow.
Once.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm saying, it's just
and
facts.
And I gotta tell you, of all the people I know, you are one of them.
I love that. Love to hear it. And then we have a pre-elderly person, Jared Bobier.
Oh, geez.
Where are we going with this?
Back problems.
Well, you know, just the passage of time and life and different expertise levels. And
definitely.
He has all this back pain from carrying the weight of this entire podcast.
It really is true.
If
there's one person I know who has some back pain, it is Jared.
That's true.
All right. And I'm here. I am just as I am, just as I always will be. Joseph Rubino.
Holding down the present day.
It's true. That's right. Just a dot on an endless line. Joseph Rubino.
So wait, if you're the ghost of Christmas present and I'm the ghost of Christmas past, does that make Jared Christmas
Jared is
future?
the ghost of Christmas future.
Yeah.
It's a very synthy,
it's a vaporwave Christmas
It is
carol.
a vaporwave Christmas. I need that.
Dude, actually, that would be so fun to make. I might mess around.
You should try it, dude. Just a
Ghost,
little...
Ghost of Christmas future, but it's just Daft Punk.
Oh
Right.
my god.
I'm so into that. Oh my
It's
God.
like a Daft
Well,
Punk remix of Santa Claus is coming to town. That's awful. Oh my god.
This is me reeling the podcast back in, guys.
All right.
Thank you guys for tuning in. It's been a minute. We took a week off just for some R&R, but we're back today with a listener submitted question for us to answer. And that question comes to us from the one and only Dusty on the Discord. And it's, how did you kind of kick off your training wheels with Commander? Like, as a newer player, how do you get better? And how do you continue to get better? And what practices to take to continue on your journey as a Commander player specifically, but as a Magic player as a whole? So thought it'd be a good little discussion for us to just kind of walk through some of the things that we do that keeps us sharp and keeps us fresh.
Who wants to take it?
Oh, no thoughts on that? Just straight in?
I thought you were leading that into somewhere. Yeah.
Oh, no.
sorry.
I want to get you guys' thoughts.
Oh, sorry.
Hey, good question, Dustin.
Yeah, I love that question, honestly. After hearing it, it immediately just like caused my brain to think about what constitutes being good at this game.
Oh, yeah. I like that.
And Joseph, you and I were hanging out the other night, and I think I briefly mentioned that because this game is a social game, not just a 1v1 competitive format. Being good at this game is different than being good at pretty much every other game I've played.
True.
Because you are not only like mechanically needing to be good, but you need to be a good hang too, and need to understand how to keep the game flowing. And that's way different than just knowing what your cards do.
Right.
Yeah, that leads into probably one of the trickier aspects of talking about something like this is like, where does the line get drawn in telling somebody you just got to read your cards better, right?
True.
A subject that this can be quite like, it's delicate sort of thing, because obviously new players are new and not everybody is just inherently familiar of how every single intricacy and nuance of card interact with each other, and especially when you broad stroke it into Commander, where a single precon can be filled with upwards of like 10 to 15 different mechanics of cards.
Yeah.
So it's a strange sort of subject, delicate balance there of like, you know, making sure new people and yourself, you're learning the decks that you craft, you know, that you understand the mechanics of them and how they operate, but then also just needing to be inherently familiar, kind of broad stroke on what, when you see a commander or when you see someone else's play style, what sort of things you should be expecting and what sort of deck interactions that involves. And that sometimes walks a fine line of telling somebody you just got to be better at the game, which can lead to feel bads.
Totally. Yeah. And we don't recommend doing that. Like, that's actually an interesting point, John, of kind of looking at this question from both ends of it, as like, somebody who is experienced or like it. I think you're both right. Like, good is kind of a very strange word to talk about, but let's just talk about like experienced versus inexperienced. Like, coming from an inexperienced place, what can you do to get to experienced? Or as an experienced player, how can you accommodate and help newer players to get more experience and not get tilted and not all of that. So I think a good place to start is just some practices, like some things that we do. And I'm happy to head this one up because I actively practice as if like, I guess a good analogy would be like going to the gym, where it's like, I can't just expect to be able to lift heavy things if I don't take the time and lift heavy things by myself every once in a while. So like things that I do is like gold fishing, which is a term that I think comes from coding, but it's where you just play against yourself. So you like a lot of chess players will do this as well. I think Jared, you probably relate a bit, but what you do is you just take your deck and you just shuffle it as if you're about to start a game and draw an opening 7 and just see if in a vacuum, if you can, develop to a point where you can start to win the game with that opening 7 or with the next few cards that you draw. I never would go past the first like 2 or 3 turns because it just starts getting a little hectic. But even then, like play out like 10, 15 turns of the game of just like draw what can I do on this turn? Draw what can I do on this turn? Because what that's going to do is that's going to teach you the things that your deck can do. I think the biggest hurdle that people can get stuck on in their progress especially as a commander player, where it's so intense and it's 30 years of cards to sift through and interactions and stuff that wasn't made to be put together but is, and all these things that like I think the number one thing that you hear at relatively inexperienced commander tables is, oh, I didn't know that my deck could do that. And if you can get past that hurdle and you can go, I know 95% of what my deck can do. Surprises happen all the time. Like we've all run into the accidental combo where we're like, okay, these 4 cards just like loop and like lock out of the game. That's going to happen in any experience level, but especially as a newer player, gold fishing and just going through some of your own turns and knowing how your cards interact just independently in a vacuum with each other is going to get you so much farther when you sit down, because now you know what you're looking for. And now you know, okay, with this card, I need to find this other one. So when I'm drawing, I'm looking for that thing. Or, oh, I need to save this in my hand because it's really good later in the game. I shouldn't play this yet. And like, so I feel like that's the first half of it, is like, how do you get from being completely inexperienced with your deck up to speed with where you're now tracking with what your deck can do. And then the other half of that is just playing a ton and playing a ton and giving your and your play group some grace in going like, look, we're all inexperienced, or, this kind of leans into the, as an experienced player, what can you do too? But like, if you're playing with newer players, like help them walk through what their cards do. Like, don't play for them, but like, oh, hey, you have this thing that is going to stop me. Like, play it.
Present opportunities when they arise.
Exactly. Yeah. So I feel like we go back to this all the time, but like communication in your commander pod is one of the most valuable things that you can have as a friend group, as a player group, all of that. So being able to communicate clearly and know like, okay, I'm going to help this person take me down if it means that they're going to get better.
Yeah.
Like, and again, that kind of goes back to, I think, was it our last podcast that we talked about the Rule Zero conversation?
Shoot.
It was about two episodes ago.
2 ago. So like reference back to that one on like, what are we all looking for out of this game? Like, are we all looking to just like slam each other and see who wins as fast as possible? Or are we trying to get better at the game? And like, if the answer is like one of the people in your pod is just new or is trying to get better, I would encourage experienced players to go, okay, I'm going to play as if I don't know what's going on, or, treat them like they're experienced, but walk them through what the experienced plays would be with the cards that they have. And it won't take long before you're going like, okay, now I know how these interactions work in a real game. So that combined with I know what my deck does, and then now I know how it interacts with a 4-player pod, that's going to get you from point A to point B pretty quickly.
I will say too, just to piggyback off that, like if you're new to the game, or if you're not new to the game, but you just put together this brand new deck or bought a Precon that you've never played, like some basics is read through it and like at least know what the cards do. Like when you have them in your hand is not the first time you should be seeing that card.
And there's like a time and place for that. Like if it's, you just got this deck and you're still at the shop and there's like a thing, a pod going on, then that's a decent time to completely go in blind. But
that's fair. Yeah. Like don't take the fun out of it and say, oh, I haven't looked through it yet, I don't want to play it. Like this game again is a social game, so it should never be that spiky. Like if you have people doing that, then that's just kind of cringy. But for the most part, you should know what the cards do. It's like if you were trying to play Call of Duty with friends, but you didn't know how to plug your controller into your TV, and you're like,
a really good example.
The whole time they're like, hey, I need you to like play the game, and they're like, I'm trying to just plug my Xbox in. Like you should have that down before you start, that way you're not wasting everybody's time.
How do I make the Nintendo work?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And and that's just like, this will help you have a better time, because then you're not stressed on your turn trying to read 7 cards you've never seen before. And like that's a terrible feeling. Sometimes I've been in situations where I didn't have my decks on me, so I was just playing somebody else's, and I knew what a lot of the cards did, but there was enough cards that I didn't know what they were, and I was like trying to spend everyone else's turn figuring out what to do, but most of that time was spent just familiarizing myself with the new cards I'd never seen, and inevitably I never do well in those games because I don't really know what I'm doing. So that is a way to get better at this game. Like if you want to be better, you do need to understand how to operate your deck from a mechanical perspective. It's just that's a basic thing you can do to actually improve yourself. Understanding how cards and interactions work too is like, that's a step up from that. Not only do you know what your cards do, you know what your opponent's cards are trying to do, and then you can play around that. Basically, like going back to the chess analogy, when you get good at chess, it's when you start thinking about what your opponent is trying to do and not just what move am I trying to make. Because that way you can anticipate what's happening and take more control of the game. And that same thing applies to Commander, even though there's 4 people or more. You need to understand, okay, that person is playing this deck. That deck tries to do this thing. Oh, if it's like a graveyard, like recursion deck, I'm not going to like play some card that mills 10 cards in everyone's graveyard and then sit here and lose to that guy, because I know that that's a bad play. Even though it might help me, like understanding those margins is super helpful to understand what kind of plays you need to make to further your game plan. So, John, do you have any thoughts on that?
You could like throw to the opposite end of that as well. If you're the group of people who have tons, like I'd be pretty just like not assuming and say, the collective 3 of us, we are very experienced players, right? We know the games in and out quite well. People like us who are understanding of the decks, like, we are regularly crafting decks from scratch. We're using the tools and resources that we are aware of to build things from the ground up. Having the tools and the decks, more or less, to accommodate to those who are trying to learn as well, right? Like, build a variety of decks. It not only broadens your own play experience and being able to try new strategies and new deck themes, but it also gives you a sampling of decks to have available for you on hand, so that when you need to be the experienced guidance, you have a deck at a C tier, B tier, A tier,
right,
for whatever play group you're looking to get started in, right? You're trying to teach somebody how to get started in the game. All right, have a C tier budget brewery deck. Make a micro brew or buy a Precon, right?
Totally.
even if you never strip that precon for parts, right? Just keep something like that handy on hand. Then it's got your guideposts there for being able to help someone who has just either constructed their own deck from scratch without resource guidance, or they just picked up the new set precon. Now you have something that is on their same power level, so that even if you are doing the teaching thing of like, well, I just don't know what my cards do, like, you can pretend that your stuff isn't stronger than theirs, but if you're still at a much higher deck level than what they are currently playing, even if you're holding back, there's an opportunity there for you to still just steamroll them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
So keeping available tools and resources on you to help at all different varieties of power levels, because then that helps guide those players forward once they get past the point of being done learning with precons and starter decks. You've now introduced them to start building their own decks from the ground up with some of their favorite legendaries. You've got B tiers ready to go to help them learn and understand where their deck's strengths and weaknesses lie.
Definitely.
Like
we've all
lot.
missed the biggest point of all on how to get better, which is listen to the MTG Thoughtcast.
Yeah.
That's
you'll
the
become
biggest one.
10%
Also,
better
joining our
instantly.
Discord is the easiest way to get better. Which the link is
to
in the
be honest,
description.
I know
So
you're
join our
saying-
Discord.
I know you're saying that as a joke, but I legitimately think it probably would make people better.
Why do you think I'm saying it as a joke, Jared? I believe in what we do.
Yeah, John, can you cut that from the video? Yeah, Joseph, I know you're saying that completely seriously, and I agree. Yeah.
In all
for real?
seriousness, I listen to a lot of Magic podcasts, and like that's kind of how I stay up on it and stay fresh. Is like watching spoiler videos, so I know what cards are coming out. Also, we haven't talked about this yet, but indexing your decks using something like Moxfield and writing out your deck helps you because you literally have to type in every card in your deck. So even just that practice alone is going to help you learn what your deck does, learn why the cards are there. There's the other thing too, again, going back to something that we do as well, is you should be able to do a deck tech on your deck. So like until you're at the point where you can go, this card is in here for this reason. Once you get there, how do I word this? Once you get to the point where you can go, this card is in here for this reason, you will have accidentally leveled up. Like you'll find yourself just going like, cool, this card is in here for this reason because it does this.
Yeah,
End of story.
it moves you past the point of being the kind of player that throws decks into whatever color matches because ooh, shiny.
Right, exactly.
Or whoa, look at this bomb. Wow. Carnage Tyrant. Whoa.
Yeah.
Like when you move past the point of like understanding that cards are constructed into a deck for purposes and not without like asterisks there. Like, yes, put a pet card in your deck if you want to, but your deck also can't just be all the filler from your 2014 Deck Builders Toolkit.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Jared, you had a few of those when we met.
Oh, for sure. That's a good segue into what I was about to say. A way to get better at this game, play with people who are better than you.
Yeah.
Straight up, because you're not going to realize where you are at unless you are made aware of that by a difference. Like starting to play with Joseph and some of the people that he was playing with, I was like, oh, I have a lot of room for improvement, at least as far as like deck building. Mechanically, like I was just playing with the cards that were there. Getting those new cards that are better helped me improve as well. I still make misplays sometimes, but so does everyone. And honestly, that too, like when kind of an attitude shift. I remember like things like counter spells or like when people use removal, like used to be so frustrating and annoying to me way back in the day. But then I got older and realized these cards are just part of this game that I enjoy. And I can't be mad when people just play the cards that exist, and accepting that and going, okay, it's completely valid and actually smart that that person did that thing. I'm not going to hold that against them for being a good player, because this is a social format and the whole point is not just me trying to win.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that too, a certain extent where it's like I am trying to win, but I'm no longer mad when someone blows up my Rhystic Study. It might be it is frustrating, but it's like that's the objectively smart thing for them to do. So I'm not going to hold that against them. And
going back to something you said a few seconds ago, I just want everyone to know that it's on tape now that Jared said that I'm better than him. So
I would say that's true, actually.
Just clear in the air.
I would also just like to throw that out on record that you're a better Magic player than both of us combined.
Guys, this isn't hype Joseph up moment. This isn't what this is for.
I would agree.
Look,
John,
I know really cards better than you, but
True.
you've gone to tabletop events. I never have, so that instantly makes you better than me.
But okay. I know we're kind of joking a little bit right now, but also like this goes back to our like, what does it mean to be good? Like everybody's going to have a different definition of what it means to be good at this game. Like I don't see myself as like a great player just because I like go to events. Like, because I don't win a ton. Like I participate in them for sure. There was like once or twice where I had like some really good moments, but that's because I'm playing with people who I think are better than me. And like your definition of good has to come from what you want out of this game. If it's I can hold my own at a kitchen table with my buddies and have some drinks or whatever, like while we're playing, and like then that's amazing. Like that's exactly what you should be striving for, is like being able to hold your own in those cases. Or is it like I want to go and play a CEDH tournament and like top 8 it? Like then that's because like that's my definition of good, is like top 8ing tournaments because I'm kind of spiky. Like that's what I want to do, is like win prizes. Like I'm playing this game for monetary gain. So that's it. Mark Rosewater always says that, like, for anybody who doesn't know, he's the head designer of Magic. He always says that Magic, what makes it special is that it's a different game for everybody. Like everybody has a different reason that they're playing. Everybody has a different, like, I won the game, I did something cool. Like I find a lot of times, like even when I lose a game, if I had a cool interaction or like something went well, or I exiled all of my cards to Nahiri's Resolve, like I still feel like I won the game in my heart because I did what I set out to do with my decks. So also being flexible on that and knowing when to change. Like I love top 8ing tournaments. I don't love being the spiky guy at the kitchen table. Like that's not what I want to do. So you know
how to pivot to fit the environment that you're playing in.
100%. Yeah. There's been so many games where I'm like, I have a board wipe in hand, but I'm just not going to play it. Like
that's actually really interesting.
Yeah. You don't have to play it. You can let somebody else win.
Let's for the sake of this episode, like we've probably all been in that situation where we're like, I could do this thing. That would probably be objectively the best move I could make to win the game for me. But as far as like, is this going to make the game the most fun overall?
Right.
Like, and it negatively impacts that idea. You make the choice to not do the thing that would probably make you win. Yeah. Like, what kind of thought process do you go through to come to those conclusions? If I'm like at a Magic night that's casual or at a kitchen table or something, and I've already won a game, then I'm going to not try to win the next ones. If I happen to, I happen to. But like, my goal is like, if I walk away and I've won a game that night, like out of 3 or 4 that get played, then I'm thrilled and I feel great about the night. Like I strive for 25% win rate with the homies. And all of this goes out the window if I'm paying for an event. Then I'm striving for 100% win rate. So I think the biggest thing is just reading the room, like understanding the setting that you're in and what environment you're trying to create, because good play groups and good dynamics don't happen on accident. They happen because they're intentional. So like going in with the intention of, I want everyone to have the best time that they can. A lot of times that looks like is a 25% win rate, where it's like, I've won my game. I'm now going to try to help Jared win his game. Like if there's something that I could do that is either going to win me game 2 or is going to stop the person who's trying to knock Jared out game 2, I'm going to opt for the thing that stops the person from knocking Jared out.
rather than just trying to develop my own board or develop my own game. Like there's a bit of it in a casual sense that feels like improv, or it feels like a performance where it's like, I want this to be as amazing for everybody who's in this room as possible. And a lot of times that means stepping back for a second and going 3,000 foot view. What happens if I play Wrath of God here? Everyone's going to be upset and it's going to take us another hour to win this game. I'm just going to hold that one in my hand.
You should play Mana Flare.
Yeah. Or what I've actually found a ton, this is a bit of a sidebar, but there's a really cool subset of cards that Wizards is starting to print that is like board wipes, except they're active board wipes. Like Taunt from the Ramparts has become one of my absolute favorite cards because
that card is sick.
It's not necessarily a board wipe, but it kind of is. Like it messes everything up, but also messes it up by like dealing 20 damage to everybody and making all of your creatures useless and stuff like that, where it's like, rather than Wrath of God, you pay 1 extra mana for something and it now becomes this fun, active part of the game rather than preventing people from doing what they're trying to do. It's like, great, you want to play your creatures and you want to swing? Amazing. I'm going to play Taunt from the Ramparts and everyone's going to swing and nobody can block and nobody can attack me. So like, I'm still benefiting from it.
It's
but
also a way better card too.
Well, I just haven't. Well, objectively, Wrath of God is an unbelievably better card. Like on face value.
I disagree because Wrath of God kills your stuff and it kills everyone else's stuff and it just stalls the game out. Taunt from the Ramparts makes everyone else attack each other. So it moves the game forward and prevents them from swinging at you.
I see where you're going with this.
So
I disagree, but I see where you're going with this.
You 2-for-1, whereas with Wrath of God, you 2-for-1 yourself. Or you just reset everything. Now you're not on the play. You have to wait for the entire table to rebuild, and then you get to rebuild. That feels pretty bad.
Right. Well, again, going back to reading the room, like it just depends on what environment you're in. Like at a casual table, yes, Taunt from the Ramparts is going to be more fun for everybody than Wrath of God is. If I'm playing CEDH, I'm not touching Taunt from the Ramparts.
Yeah,
and it's Wrath of God all day long. So it's stuff like that. That's like, obviously right now we're talking like experienced players who are inviting inexperienced players into their group, which I highly recommend doing. Like be a pal, like help to build what you want to see in your play groups, in your LGSs. Like the only reason why it's going to be any different than what the stereotypes are for any of these things is if you help to break down those walls and help to break down those stereotypes. So the goal would be that the inexperienced player doesn't have any additional responsibilities outside of just showing up. Like that'd be the goal. So like, I know that Dustin's question was, how do I get better at the game? I want to create an environment that is just show up and play, and we're going to help you get better. And you're going to have opportunities presented to you to get better just by showing up and playing. Like you don't have to do the heavy lifting. Like let us kind of carry you up to where we are. We're not going to go crazy hard on you until you're at the point that we are. Like so I got my buddy Seth into the game almost a year ago now, I guess. And we spent probably 3 or 4 months just playing the two of us together, where I just walked him through how to beat me with the cards that he has in hand. So like a mentorship, a sensei, whatever, like find a buddy who's good and wants to help you get good and teach you how to play. Like have a sparring partner. Like this is how people get good at boxing. This is how people get good at sports. It's exactly the same way when it comes to playing a strategy game like this.
Your new 100%. Server title is going to be Guru.
Oh, I hope so.
We got the Oracle and we got the Guru. I am going to find my purpose one day.
Yes, bro. You're hacker man.
Oh shoot, I'll take that.
Have you ever seen Kung Fury?
I have.
Oh yeah. All right, you're hacker man.
I know this is like a sidebar, but all of you guys should watch Kung Fury.
John is Triceracop.
Absolutely. That movie is incredible.
It's so good.
So I want to chime in with you there, Joseph.
Yeah.
That like the things that you mentioned about basically to help inexperienced players get better at the game. You want to see them kind of show up to a group and basically do none of the heavy lifting. I kind of want to go ahead and disagree with you on that regard.
Yeah.
That I think as to what bar that I was mentioning about earlier, inexperienced players should at minimum as well have the tools and resources available to them to start progressing forward as they learn, right?
Yeah. New
players should not rely on decks of other people. They need their own decks, and then they need to learn how to make their own decks.
Yes. Sorry. Let me clarify heavy lifting I think it's a both and, where I think that, the first half of this conversation talking about what new players can do and practices and exercises like goldfishing and indexing, I think that's the minimum amount of work. Is if you're going to build a deck and you want to play Magic, there is a level of you have to know what you're doing in some capacity, at least knowing the basics of how the rules work, the basics of why every card is in your deck, and then knowing how the interactions work in your own deck. I don't think that's heavy lifting at all. I think that is that's part of the upkeep cost of the game. I think the heavy lifting is going, oh my God, I don't know how my opponent's decks work. Does this actually help me right here? What do I need to save this removal spell for? All of that, I think, is the heavy lifting that is really, really daunting as an newer or an inexperienced player. For example, I started playing with Dustin a while ago and was playing a card called Death Cloud, and John just gagged. Death Cloud.
Listen, you all have seen what I shared. I have a stance on Death Cloud.
100%.
None of it.
Yes, a reasonable stance. And to be fair, I stopped playing that card for this exact reason. But it was I would, if he's going to play something or he's going to dump his hand, I'm going to go, hey, you might want to save some. Now, I'm playing Death Cloud. I'm disclosing to you that Death Cloud is at least in this deck. I might have it in hand. I might not. It's a beneficial strategy to not overextend into board wipes. Be the guy who teaches people that. Don't let them just lose the game over and over and over and over and be the Dark Souls boss of the table. There's a time and a place for that. But we were specifically talking about playing with inexperienced players or inexperienced players joining a new group. Just help them out. Be a buddy.
How's that mentality been working, getting your play group to finally play Graveyard Hate against your Slimefoot and Squee?
Hasn't. There's still 0 Graveyard Hate in our play group. But at the same time, I also have not played Slimefoot and Squee in a while because our play group doesn't play Graveyard Hate. And I don't want everyone to warp their decks around something that I do for the casual, for the homies.
What ends up happening is Torolf versus Slimefoot, and it's just a race to the finish line.
Yeah, it's just a race. Can you get a damage doubler down, or can I get Razaketh on the board? That's what it turns into. But yeah, I think
go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, go for it.
I would just kind of go to sort of to piggyback into that sort of thing or whatever. Sort of a side idea that I had as far as inexperienced players, what something that they can do to help improve, at least in the mentality of when it comes to their deck building. Hop online or go to your LGS and pick up the staples, the things that appear in decks, right? If you're learning to build your own decks from the the booster packs and whatever that you are opening, combine those with a rotating selection of the stapley cards that are going to be found in a variety of decks like B tier and higher. We've had several decent enough releases of booster products, most recently Commander Masters, that have had, even below uncommon, is some of the most stapley of staples that you will find in all stretches of those, for all your pick up all of your standard green ramp, grab some soul rings, grab some arcane signets. Jared, you were just saying this before we got started. Soul ring is under 60 cents now, or not soul ring, arcane signet is under 60 cents now. Pick those up, just have a little pile of them ready to go. Get buy your best forms of like spot removal or artifact ramp. The utility creatures and things of that nature, extra card draw, and to an extent, what I was going to tell you, grab hate pieces. Grab pieces that you can go slot into decks to help combat certain strategies. Grab Bajuka Bugs. Grab what's the? It's a green. It's like
the Oracle struggling right now.
I tell you what, Return to Nature. I think Return to Nature. That one. It's like it's 3 modal, blow up an artifact, blow up an enchantment, or exile a graveyard. I think that's what it is. Grab those. They're great.
Yeah.
They are.
Is this our segue into Budget Brewery?
I suppose it can be, unless you have anything else you want to add as far as
I feel some final thoughts, some like concrete, like these are. Because what I've gathered from this has kind of been more like a round table where we all kind of just discuss our kind of viewpoints on what it means to be good at this game, because this game is so different for everyone, like you mentioned. So that said, I feel like we have a lot of things out in the ether right now, and it'd be helpful maybe to just nail them down for everyone. Be like, here's some concrete things you could actually do.
Yeah.
Just like 3
We like lists. Joseph, make us a list. Let's go.
First and foremost is just goldfish your own decks. Know what you're doing. Second of all is just go in, be fine with losing. That's all right. Look at losses as learning opportunities rather than I lost the game. It's like, oh, I'm learning how. Look back on the game that you lost and go, what could I have done differently? So be in a constant state of evaluation. So I'd say that's the biggest things for newer players. I also would highly, highly recommend using a site like Moxfield and indexing your decks. Moxfield also has a playtest feature that Goldfish is for you, so you don't have to actually shuffle and like.
It's so good.
It's really good. If you got an extra 10 minutes, just like grab a couple opening hands and see like, okay, what am I trying to do with this opening hand? Like learn how to mulligan as well. That's a big one. And then as a newer player, as a more experienced player, is being lenient with people who are inexperienced. Help them get experienced. Look at your games from a 30,000 foot view and go, maybe I'm not going to do what's exactly like the objectively best thing for me to do, but is like objectively best for the group. And then just like continue to have fun. Again, all of this is under the context of casual Commander. So just a big disclaimer of if you're paying for a CEDH tournament, just go ham. Like only care about yourself. It's okay to be selfish in tournaments where you've paid money for it.
Mm-hmm. I agree on basically all those points. Yep. Just kind of adding along to the same thing as like what I was saying, like learn decks as you build them. Yeah. Learn generalized strategies, because like you'll come up against and play against people who are playing like some kind of corner case niche sort of thing. But even those sort of like weird decks, I've talked about this a couple times. I've shared this in a podcast episode before. I play a Shrines deck. It's narrow, specific, but as a whole, it's Enchantress. So like learn generalized strategies and look for learn the synergies that those sort of deck strategies revolve around. How you can combat them, how you can fight against them, and then later down the road, learn how to build them. And what happened to your light there, Joseph?
Turned off.
There it is. Surprise!
We're back.
Yeah, learn strategies, and then also just do some researching online and discover like what sort of path to upgrading decks can help you improve your overall deck strategy.
Mm-hmm. And your light just keeps flickering.
It certainly does, doesn't it?
Is it dead?
Your light is
I think it's
currently being blinked into Nahiri's Resolve.
It's fine.
It'll come back to the end step.
We're so close to the end of the episode. It'll be okay.
Right. I'll offer just some thoughts, and then we'll move into our budget brewery section. Yeah, just be a good hang at the table. Be nice to each other. Be understanding if someone makes a misplay, don't just like dogpile them and make them feel stupid. Like, it's part of the game. This game is incredibly complicated. There are literally like so many cards, it's hard to count them all. And it's hard. Be nice to each other. Make sure everyone is having a good time, and understand like table etiquette. So yeah, just go with that. You'll learn all of that by playing with people who are better than you, which is something that you should do as well.
True.
So, and with that, let's move into our budget brews section.
I love it. Real quick before budget brewery, there was a side question that was asked with this, which is which of the three of us are brothers? And the answer is me and John. We are brothers. I know it's confusing. We have different last names. That's life. Suck it up. We're brothers. Budget brewery.
Let's do it. That's so funny.
I swear we've mentioned that on here before. I swear,
sure.
But
I'll mention it again.
For sure.
I'm the older, if that's what you were asking specifically.
That's so funny. Just some
anyways,
Thoughtcast lore.
Yeah.
Ooh, we're building deep lore. Ooh.
We are.
Anyways, who would like to start?
Let's see. I'll go first because mine might accidentally be a repeat because I haven't written any of these down and I just kind of go off memory.
Of course not.
Yeah. Why would I do that?
Wow. Get bullied, Jared.
Yeah, I should get bullied. But my budget.
If you're not part of the family, we make fun of you.
The thing is, like, you look like you could be our brother.
Fair. Yes.
That's why this question comes up, is because we all look alike.
We're all white dudes with like dark hair.
Yeah.
Anyway, you know who else could be
be a brother?
Just take us there, Jared.
Just get us there.
Colossal Sky Turtle.
You hated Colossal Sky Turtle when I showed it to you.
I know. So that's why I picked this, because this was something that Joseph and I looked at for my Ramos Dragon Engine deck. And I initially hated this card because conceptually a Sky Turtle is something my brain doesn't like. That's truly...
You hated the lore of it.
Some people like play cards because they look cool and the art is awesome. I'm like the other way around. If I don't understand conceptually why the card exists, then I'm just like, that's stupid. I don't want to play it. So at first looking at this, I'm like, why is there a turtle with Ward 2 and 2 channel abilities? I don't understand. But if you can get past that, which I eventually did, I now love this card. It's 4 green, and a blue for an enchantment creature turtle. It has flying in Ward 2, like I just said. It has channel for 2 and a green, discard this card, and then return target card from your graveyard to your hand. And the other channel is 1 and a blue, discard this card, return target creature to its owner's hand. This has saved me in a pinch so many times. And even if you don't need to use it for its channel abilities, it's still a 6/5 flyer with Ward 2. That's a huge body that's very hard to get rid of. It can block mostly anything. And yeah, it's awesome. In Ramos, it's amazing. So
yeah, and I would say that's its fail state, is being a 6/5 flyer with Ward 2. Does it have trample as well? Flying trample, World 2?
No trample, just flying. Yeah.
Still, like, that is an unbelievably good worst part of that card.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, it's regrowth or unsummon that costs 1 more.
The fact that it's also channel abilities, like...
Yeah, they can't be countered.
You cannot respond to that. So if someone's trying to, like...
that's not true. Technically, like when you channel, the ability goes on the stack. So there's an opportunity for response. But like what Joseph was saying, channel is not casting a spell.
That's exactly what Jared's trying to say.
Unless your opponent is holding up something that counters an activated ability, or they plan to interrupt with whatever your targets are as you target them. Yes, for all intents and purposes, channel abilities are uncounterable, which increases the value of something like this.
Certainly.
Right. The amount of times like you can just get a card out of someone's graveyard that they're trying to Noxious Revival instead. Like, you can do that with this card, or you can bounce something off the board that's going to try and swing at you. It's awesome. It's super versatile. And I love cards that can do multiple things because you can only do one of a card in a commander deck. Having a card that is this versatile is super important. And for 15 cents, it's pretty nuts.
That's what I call a budget brewery.
Hey,
John?
Pretty good. Joseph, I've got an interesting one here for you.
Right.
I know it's a creature that have played in a bunch of decks before, at least the archetype of it. But the one I want to talk about specifically is one I play in my competitive Brago deck. 80 cents to do. Let me tell you about one of my favorite blinkable tutors, Tribute Mage.
To me.
And to an extent, the other like super cycle
Treasure
of
Mage,
mages.
Mage, Tribute Mage.
Mm-hmm. So Tribute Mage is one particular type of a card. It's like a variety of other ones that do a similar thing. They all have an enter the battlefield ability of when they enter the battlefield, search your library for an artifact with an particular parameter of a mana cost for an artifact. So Tribute Mage, specifically the one that I play, it grabs artifact mana value 2. A lot of people might be more familiar as well also with Trinket Mage. Trinket Mage is same cost, same stats, gets an artifact mana value 1 or less. Treasure gets mana value 6 and higher. And I'm blanking on the name of the one that does 3, but there is one that gets mana value 3 as well.
Trophy Mage?
Is that one Trophy Mage? Yes, you're right. That one is Trophy Mage. Thank you.
Got you. You're right. I do love these cards.
Yes. So, but I want to talk Tribute Mage specifically because I think like all of these varieties of cards, all of these ones here, they have utility and purpose for the specific mana values that they go and fetch, right? Like Trinket Mage is played a lot in Blink and Reanimator things because that 1 or less artifact thing, that can snag your most powerful competitive mana rock accelerations, Soul Ring, Mana Crypt, artifact lands, mana vaults, blah blah blah, stuff like that. Jeweled Lotus, the one at 3 and higher, that's getting swords. That's getting your swords, Sword of Fire and Ice, Sword of Feast and Famine. That's also getting some of your more utility mana rocks at 3 as well, Chromatic Lantern, Inspiring Statuary, things like that. I like the one at 2 because you can have a very good flexibility of both of those options. How many mana rocks have we just been talking about over the last several times we've talked about where like your 2 mana rocks are fantastic? Joseph, some of your favorite ones, all the talismans, signets, those are all 2. Arcane Signet, 2 mana. Card draw engines as well that you can get at 2 as well. Things like Howling Mine and then other equipments that are also 2. Lightning Greaves, Swiftfoot Boots. I'm you know what I'm getting at. I'm getting at here. Like I don't know every card offhand. Sorry, gang. I apologize.
2 is really the sweet spot.
But yes, it's what I think that's a very good sweet spot, right? Because like it's even though you're paying 3 to go get a tutor for something at 2 that you probably won't really be able to play that same turn, the 2 mana value I think hits enough of the most utility and practical staple-y style cards, both like narrow specific or deck unique. There's enough flexibility in what you can grab with it at the 2 that I like. I enjoy that one a lot specifically. And to my knowledge, all of these cycles of ones, all these mages that go and get a specific artifact, I don't think a single one of them surpasses $1. No. Tribute Mage is just the one I can think of offhand. Yep. I know I just checked it. It's about 60 cents. Trinket has been printed several times before. He might be above $1 or $2 just because of competitiveness, but I know Treasure Mage, the 6 mana and up one, he's pennies. I know that for certain. So these are fantastic ways to have a blinkable tutor if you're running any kind of deck with blue that does blinking strategies or cloning or reanimator, any of those kinds of things. It gives you reputable sources of being able to find objectively the most powerful card type in the game.
Yeah. I love that. That's really also cool. Love any like budget tutors. That's like such a cool spot because they're usually pretty niche, which makes people feel less bad about like Demonic Tutors pretty feels bad because it's just I'm going to grab the best card in my deck. Whereas like Trinket Mage, Tribute Mage is like I'm going to grab the best of this tiny little subset and we'll see how that affects me. So I like that kind of stuff. My budget brewery is pretty simple. My good friend Dire Fleet Daredevil is a rare originally from Ixalan, right, John?
Rivals of Ixalan, I believe.
Got it. And
I love that you even know the specific set.
So it's 1 and a red for a 2/1 with first strike. And when it enters the battlefield, you exile an instant or sorcery card from an opponent's graveyard, and you can cast it this turn and spend mana as though or mana of any color to cast it. So it's such a low cost of entry on a 2-mana 2/1 with first strike, which already is pretty good. Like first strike and 2 power will get through quite a lot. Like especially early game, that's going to almost read as unblockable. Like you don't care about death touch, you don't care about anything that has 2 toughness. Like 2/1 kind of sucks, but like it's again, if we're talking about fail states for a card of like you top deck this and everybody's graveyards are empty, I'm never mad about like a 2/1 with first strike. But being able to get rid of somebody's like preordain, and then especially if you're exiling cards that are off color from your deck. So like I play this in my Boros Blink deck, which again, it's an ETB ability too. So like if I can blink it out and then it comes back in and then I just get to like snipe everything. The other fail state of it is like, even if you can't cast the card that you're targeting, it still just exiles it. So it is targeted graveyard hate that sometimes is going to give you some unbelievable upside. Like sometimes you're just going to get rid of a
Jessica's Will.
Well, if you should be playing this with Jessica's Will, but
yeah, sure.
You can get rid of a Dread Return, like that somebody's trying to flash back out of their graveyard, or like a Mizzix's Mastery or whatever. Like it's really good against anything that's trying to be flashed back. It's really good against anything they're trying to return from their graveyard, because again, it just exiles it, and then for that turn, you get to cast it if you have enough mana open for it. But you don't even have to have the right colors. It's not even like the Ragavan thing. What's that?
Displacer Kitten? This card?
Yeah, so good. Like if you can blink it, it gets unbelievable. But like just on a first play, like you're playing with somebody who's playing Demonic Tutor, and they like turn 2 Demonic Tutor, and then you've ramped on your turn 2. So on turn 3, you have 4 mana open, and you go Dire Fleet Daredevil, exile your Demonic Tutor. I'm gonna Demonic Tutor. Like it's so good, and it's 18 cents. Like
that's awesome.
If you're playing red,
playing this,
yeah, play it. It's so good.
Wow.
But that's my budget brewery, and I feel good about all of ours.
Sorry if I talked about Colossal Sky Turtle before. My memory is not.
I don't think you did.
You didn't. Nope.
I don't think you did.
Cool. I'm not the Oracle for a reason. So
it's true.
Don't
sue
me.
With that, guys, I think this is another successful MTG Thoughtcast coming to a close. Huge shout out to Dusty on our Discord for the question today. We love you, bro. Glad you're here. Let me just have a stroke real quick on like how I'm finishing this. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for listening, watching. We love doing this because you guys love listening to it. So if you enjoy this, give us a like, comment, subscribe. All of that, it helps us out so much, and especially joining our Discord. So link in the description, jump on. We'll all give you some love for jumping on and saying hey and everything. So come and join us there, and we'll see you next time on the MTG Thoughtcast.